The last of the mourners had drifted toward their cars, their subdued murmurs fading into the cold November wind. I stood at the living room window, clutching a coffee cup that had gone cold long ago. My eyes traced the retreating shapes, trying to memorize the familiar faces of those who had come to pay their respects to Ralph, my son. Yet nothing felt familiar anymore. The warmth of grief had been replaced by the icy certainty that something wasn't right. Leona, my daughter-in-law, emerged from the shadows of the porch. I noticed her approach Mrs. Patterson with purpose, their heads bent together. Even from this distance, the body language screamed intimacy, familiarity, the kind reserved for lovers rather than mourners. His hand brushed her arm. She leaned in, urgent, intense. My heart skipped, confusion and unease battling grief. This wasn't how funerals were supposed to look. I set the cup down and moved toward the gate, my shoes crunching against the gravel path. By the time I reached where I thought the man would still be, he was gone. Leona turned and her face transformed almost instantly. Grief returned, a mask perfected over years of acting. "Leona?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Oh, just someone from the funeral home, confirming final arrangements," and she said, her eyes glinting with a hint of irritation before she smoothed it away. I let it drop. 35 years as a fire inspector had taught me when to push and when to watch. And right now, I needed to watch. Inside, the house was buzzing with the low hum of casseroles and condolence conversations. Yet I noticed it all. The way Leona's phone never left her hand, the rapid typing, the sudden pauses, the careful deletion of messages. She was orchestrating something I didn't yet understand. By 8, the last guest had gone. Leona announced she would go upstairs to rest. Her footsteps echoed, pacing above me, and her muffled voice carried an energy that no widow should have. Animated, deliberate, alive. I felt a chill crawl down my spine. Then the phone rang, Nelson Gray, Ralph's boss. "Mr. Crawford, I need to speak with you urgently," he said. His warm voice was gone, replaced by formality. "Come alone, don't tell Leona. You are in danger too." My mind raced. What could be so terrible that my son's boss would call at this hour? But I promised him I would come. I couldn't sleep. Around midnight, I found myself in Ralph's old bedroom, now cluttered with Leona's shopping bags, sitting on the bed where my son had read comic books. My hands traced the outlines of the notepad I always carried. Observations, dates, oddities, all noted. 3 months ago, Leona had become inexplicably kind. After 5 years of polite distance, she started calling me Dad with warmth, checking on my health, my retirement, even asking if I'd updated my will. "Just want to make sure you're taken care of," she'd said, squeezing my hand. Then there was the insurance conversation, how she had nudged Ralph relentlessly. "We need security, honey. What if something happens? Your father's getting older. We need to think about the future." Ralph had resisted at first, arguing behind closed doors. But Leona had a way of wearing him down. He always caved. The arguments escalated in the weeks leading to his death. Raised voices behind closed doors. Ralph's face haggard, shoulders tight with stress. The night before the accident, he had called me. "Dad, can we talk? Something important." But Leona had interrupted. "Honey, we have plans. Remember?" Ralph had sighed. "Tomorrow, Dad. I'll call you tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. Dawn crept through the window, gray and cold. My old notepad lay open on my lap. My handwriting was sharp, focused, a new purpose overriding the grief. I checked my watch. 6 hours until my meeting with Nelson. I rose, moving to my desk, pulling out the accident report from the police. Brake line failure, catastrophic. Total loss of braking on Interstate 10 during morning rush hour. The impact had been instant, fatal. Ralph would have had no chance. But my mind clung to one detail. Ralph had been meticulous with car maintenance. Always. He had taken the car to his shop just 2 weeks before the crash. Full service, new brake fluid, complete inspection. Everything passed, and brakes don't fail catastrophically in 2 weeks. Someone had touched them after service. Premeditation. A word I had learned to recognize over decades of investigating fires, disasters, and accidents. I knew the difference between chance and design. I checked the clock again. Leona's alarm went off upstairs. Footsteps, movement. She would come down any minute, putting on the widow act, pretending her grief was genuine. But first, I needed Nelson's discovery. I needed to know what Ralph had tried to warn me about. The coffee in my hand was still cold, but my hands were steady now, not trembling from grief, but steady with resolve. Evidence, timeline, questions, proof that would lead me to the truth. At 7:30, I came downstairs. Leona was in the kitchen making breakfast. Eggs, toast, fresh coffee. Domestic perfection, staged with precision. "Good morning, Dad. Did you sleep at all?" she asked, voice honeyed and concerned. I poured my coffee, keeping my movements casual. "I have some errands, banking, paperwork," I said. "Oh, anything I can help with?" Her smile widened, practiced and flawless. I nodded. "Just boring administrative things. Should be back this afternoon." "Perfect. When you get back, we should talk about the house, finances, planning for the future." I sipped my coffee, watching her reflection in the window. The moment she thought I wasn't looking, her face went blank. Phone in hand, typing furiously, smiling at something unseen. A real smile. Not the widow act she played for me. I left, watching her in the rearview mirror, laughing on the phone, alive, untouched by grief. Phoenix's business district was gray and modern, sterile and sharp. Nelson's assistant guided me without pleasantries to a conference room. Nelson entered 30 seconds later, looking exhausted. "Mr. Crawford," he began, locking the door. "What I'm about to show you will be difficult." He tapped a tablet. Security footage. Ralph, a week before the accident, phone pressed to his ear, furious, gesturing sharply. "I told you no, Leona. I won't sell Dad's house. That's insanity." His face crumpled. Leona's response was muted but forceful. She wanted money, inheritance, control. Ralph resisted. Alone in the empty parking lot, he cried, defeated, helpless. Then Nelson produced an envelope. "Ralph left this with me 5 weeks ago, only for you, not Leona." Inside were bank statements, transactions totaling $23,000 to Webb, and a $500,000 life insurance policy. Ralph's handwriting was strained, forced. The breaks, the arguments, the insurance, the pressure. It all pointed to one horrifying conclusion. Someone had killed my son for money. Nelson handed me a USB drive. "Everything's on here. Keep it safe." I folded the accident report, slipped it into my jacket along with my notepad. Evidence, proof, purpose. I wasn't returning home, not yet. Not while rage burned behind my eyes, cold and focused. Tonight, I would catalog every detail, every inconsistency. I would find Marcus Webb, I would find Leona's lies, and I would start building the case my son had wanted me to see. Tomorrow, the hunt would begin. The glass doors of Nelson Gray's office reflected the harsh morning light, casting long, sterile streaks across the floor. I entered, clutching my jacket like a shield, my pockets heavy with Ralph's accident report and my own notepad. My mind replayed every detail of yesterday, the fleeting moments at the funeral, Leona's perfect grief, the man in the mechanic's jacket, the cold certainty that Ralph had been murdered. Nelson motioned for me to sit. His usually warm expression was replaced by a taut, rigid tension. He tapped the tablet in front of him. "What you're about to see, I hope you're prepared, Mr. Crawford. This is what Ralph was trying to tell us all along." A video played, parking lot security footage, time-stamped exactly 7 days before Ralph's accident. My stomach churned as I recognized my son, pacing beside his car, phone pressed to his ear, jaw clenched, fists gesturing. Even without sound, the fury on his face was unmistakable. Nelson adjusted the volume and Ralph's voice crackled through the speakers. "I told you no, Leona. I won't sell Dad's house. That's insanity." His words, though strained, carried authority, desperation, and fear. Leona's reply was muted, nearly inaudible. But her tone, the tilt of her head, the confidence in her posture, domination disguised as persuasion, was unmistakable. Ralph's face crumbled, the lines of tension folding like paper in fire. After the call, he sat alone in his car for 10 long minutes, hands over his face. He had been defeated, not by chance, not by accident, by design. Nelson stopped the video. His eyes met mine, heavy with guilt. I should have brought this to you sooner. I kept hoping I was wrong, but look for yourself. Again, see the patterns. We watched it 3 more times. Each viewing revealed nuances previously invisible. The way Ralph's hands shook, the repeated glances at his phone, the posture of absolute helpless surrender. My chest tightened. This wasn't just a dispute. It was a warning. Nelson crossed to a safe built into the wall. He withdrew a manila envelope worn at the edges. Ralph left this for you 5 weeks ago. Not Leona, just you. He wanted you to have it if something happened to him. Inside were highlighted bank statements. $23,000 transferred over 3 months to a mysterious M. Webb. A handwritten note, precise in Ralph's meticulous script, explained nothing. He claimed Leona had credit card debt, but those cards didn't exist. Then came the insurance policy, $500,000, signed 2 months ago. Ralph's signature forced, uneven. Nelson leaned back, whispering about he was worried, stressed, distracted for weeks. He wanted to talk about family problems, but kept postponing. Then the day before the accident, he finally scheduled a meeting with me. He said, "I need advice about protecting my father." I felt a chill. Those words were clear. He had anticipated danger. He had tried to warn me. I spread everything across the conference table. Bank statements, the insurance policy, the video, the accident report. My eyes caught the service history. Ralph's car had been serviced 15 days before the accident. New brake fluid, complete inspection, perfect condition. Yet the report confirmed catastrophic brake failure. My instincts screamed, brakes don't fail like that under normal circumstances, not in 2 weeks. Someone had accessed that car after service. Sabotage. Premeditation. I tapped the accident report. Look at this. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. Nelson handed me a USB drive. Everything's on here. Videos, documents, copies of the envelope. Keep it safe. Use it wisely. I nodded, sliding the drive into my pocket next to my notepad. Evidence, proof, purpose? I didn't need to return home. Not yet. Not while Leona's performance was still in motion, orchestrating herself as the grieving widow, while plotting my son's death and inheritance. The drive home was a blur of red lights and morning traffic. I didn't go home immediately. I stopped at the library parking lot 3 blocks from my house and sat with the engine running, staring at the dashboard as if it would reveal hidden secrets. My phone buzzed. Leona, warm, concerned. "Honey, Dad, we need to talk about the house and finances." The voice was deceptive, practiced. Not a crack in the mask, not a trace of grief. I let the call go to voicemail, then played it on speaker. I listened to her warmth, her insistence, her false intimacy, analyzing tone, cadence, subtle inflections, anything to confirm my suspicions. None appeared. She was good, dangerous in her precision. I opened my notepad to a blank page and wrote, "Investigation log, M. Webb." Underlined 3 times, Marcus Webb. This person receiving my son's money, connection to Leona, involved in a conspiracy. Everything in my mind began to connect, like sparks flaring in dry brush. Evidence from Nelson, the accident report, Ralph's personal warnings, all pointed to a single conclusion. Leona had orchestrated my son's death. I needed more. Proof beyond circumstantial connections. Evidence that would stand up to scrutiny in court. First, I had to find out exactly who Emma Webb was. Who had the skills and access to tamper with Ralph's brakes? The answer lurked in the shadows of his last maintenance appointment. I called Steve's Automotive, Ralph's trusted mechanic. Steve, mid-50s, gruff, practical, immediately recognized my name. "Ralph, man, I'm so sorry. He was a good kid, always meticulous, always on time. I remember him well." I cut to the chase. "I need to know about his last brake service." Steve's expression shifted. Concern, maybe confusion. "Let me check." He led me to his cluttered office, rummaging through paper records and ancient computer files. Full brake service, 15 days before the accident. Everything done by him personally. Perfect brakes. Was that the last time you saw the car? I asked. No. Wait, actually, his wife brought it in a month before that for routine maintenance. Ralph didn't schedule it. My wife helped her. My pulse quickened. Who accompanied her? Steve hesitated. Then realization crossed his face. Marcus Webb, ex-employee, fired 3 years ago. Sloppy work, cut corners with brakes. I froze. Marcus Webb, the same name in Ralph's bank statements. The man in the mechanic's jacket at the funeral. The one Leona had been seen with, intimate, confident, familiar with a brake shop's workflow. Steve printed screenshots from the footage, showing Leona and Marcus Webb arriving together. My gut tightened. The conspiracy was real. The pieces connected. Brakes tampered, money transferred, the insurance policy, the pressure to sell the house, the arguments. Someone had killed my son deliberately. Someone had used Leona as leverage. That evening, Leona played the devoted widow perfectly. Roasted chicken, fresh bread, vegetables steaming from the oven. She poured my water before I could ask, smiled warmly, asking about my day. But beneath that domestic tranquility, I knew she was calculating, planning, observing. Dad, she began, carefully choosing each word, I've been thinking about our future, the house, finances, perhaps something smaller, more manageable. Her knife cut the chicken with precise intention. She wasn't just cooking dinner, she was preparing the battlefield. I feigned indecision, giving the illusion of vulnerability. She leaned forward, probing, attempting to manipulate me. I let her smile, letting her believe she had won another small victory. But in my mind, every move, every word, every nuance was being cataloged. The investigation had begun. The evidence, the timeline, the notes, all waiting to become the foundation of a case that would finally reveal the truth about Ralph's death. And somewhere, Leona and Marcus Webb were plotting their next move, unaware that I had already begun tracing every step, every lie, every connection. The hunt had begun. The morning air in Phoenix was sharp and dry as I pulled into Steve's Automotive on East Indian School Road. The scent of motor oil, gasoline, and heated metal greeted me like a familiar warning. This was Ralph's trusted mechanic, the man who had cared for his son's car for years. I didn't know if I'd find answers here, but I had to try. Steve, a man of solid build with grease-stained hands and a face worn by years of labor, spotted me immediately. "Mr. Crawford," he said, wiping his hands on a rag. His voice carried both sympathy and concern. "Ralph, he was a good kid, always meticulous, never missed a service, always asked the right questions. I can't believe he's gone." I nodded, my jaw tight. "I need to ask about his last brake service, the one right before the accident." Steve's brow furrowed. He led me to the cluttered office, the faint hum of machinery and impact wrenches in the background filling the silence. He pulled up the records on a dusty computer. "Here it is. Full brake service, 15 days before the accident. New pads, rotors, fluid flush. I did the work myself, perfect brakes. Everything in top condition." I leaned over, my eyes scanning the digital record, comparing it to the police accident report. "Was that the last time you saw the car?" Steve paused, then shook his head slowly. "Actually, no. His wife brought it in a month before that. Just routine maintenance," she said. "Ralph hadn't scheduled anything. My wife helped her with the paperwork. I wasn't there personally, but it was all standard stuff." My pulse quickened. "Did anyone accompany her?" Steve's eyes widened slightly. "Yeah, now that you mention it, a man in mechanic's coveralls, confident, knew his way around the shop." "Wait, that was Marcus Webb, fired 3 years ago. Sloppy work, cut corners, especially with brake jobs. Couldn't have him around. Liability." Marcus Webb. The name jumped off the page, 23,000 in Ralph's bank statements. The man in the mechanic jacket at the funeral. Someone with the skills and opportunity to tamper with Ralph's brakes. And he had been with Leona during a visit Ralph never authorized. Steve motioned for me to follow. "We keep security footage for 90 days. Let me check the archives." The surveillance room smelled of dust, old electronics, and stale coffee. Steve rewound the footage to November 28th. My heart skipped. There it was. Leona's silver sedan pulling into the lot. She emerged from the driver's side, confident, purposeful. From the passenger side came Marcus Webb, calm, deliberate, moving with a familiarity that only insiders possessed. I leaned closer to the monitor, recognizing the subtle ease with which he navigated the lot. Marcus Webb, former mechanic, expert at cutting corners and hiding mistakes, now standing beside Leona, the same woman orchestrating my son's death, or at least part of it. Steve printed screenshots without me asking, handing me the grainy but unmistakable images. Leona and Marcus, talking, laughing, exchanging gestures that seemed entirely innocuous, but now felt like sinister signals in hindsight. As I drove home, the weight of the day pressed on me. Marcus Webb was real. He was not just a name on a bank statement, not just a shadow in Ralph's last days. He was a co-conspirator. Leona had used him, paid him, planned with him. The conspiracy was no longer theory, it was fact. That evening, Leona greeted me with an elaborate dinner. Roasted chicken, vegetables glistening with butter, freshly baked bread, a glass of wine perfectly poured. She smiled, her eyes warm, her voice gentle, attentive. "How was your day, Dad?" she asked. I studied her, every word, every glance. She was performing. She knew I suspected something. After dinner, she leaned forward, casual, careful, precise. "Dad, I've been thinking, maybe we should consider downsizing. Smaller place, easier to manage. We could sell the house and split the proceeds. Think about the future, our security." I let her words hang in the air. Her knife paused mid-cut. Her smile was perfect, but my mind cataloged every nuance. She was positioning herself, circling the inheritance, circling me, circling the house. She believed she had me convinced. She believed I was weak, grieving, blind. I pretended indecision, letting her think she had another small victory. But my mind was already working, reconstructing timelines, connecting dots. Leona pressured Ralph for life insurance. Leona forced him to argue about selling the house. Ralph resisted. Leona visited the shop with Marcus Webb without Ralph's knowledge. Brakes tampered, catastrophic failure, fatal accident. $23,000 transfers to Marcus Webb. Insurance policy signed under duress, every piece fit. The chain was complete except for one thing, direct proof of conspiracy. I needed audio, surveillance, or anything linking Leona Marcus to the tampering itself. Without it, Detective Torres was correct. The police were limited. The law required evidence, not intuition. That night, Leona continued her performance upstairs. The smell of roasted chicken lingered. I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, documents spread before me. Screenshots, accident report, bank statements, service records, notepad observations. My fingers tapped methodically, creating a digital backup of everything. Secure cloud storage, encrypted files. Evidence must be preserved. I photographed every document, every angle, every anomaly. Leona's alarm went off in the bedroom above. Her footsteps moved rhythmically. I imagined her pacing, practicing her lines, rehearsing her widow act. The thought made my blood run cold. She was calculating, patient, dangerous. I wrote down a list. Marcus Webb, identify his movements, capture conversations. Leona Crawford, document patterns, conversations, interactions, false narratives, financials, track all transfers, identify other potential accomplices. Surveillance, collect footage from the shop, streets, other relevant locations. Police collaboration, determine what evidence Detective Torres requires to move forward. It was becoming clear. This was not just a murder. It was a carefully orchestrated conspiracy. Someone had calculated the value of my son's life against money and decided it wasn't worth saving. And that someone, Leona, was living under my roof, smiling, pretending to grieve. I looked at the USB drive from Nelson, my notepad, the accident report. The pieces were forming a mosaic of betrayal. Every small, deliberate action by Leona now screamed intentionality. The sudden warmth, the insurance push, the carefully timed car service. Tomorrow I would start surveillance. Private investigators, cameras, GPS tracking. I needed to see them, hear them, catch them. Evidence beyond speculation. Proof that would hold up in court. Tonight, I allowed myself a small comfort. A mug of tea, cooled to lukewarm perfection, set beside the notepad. My hands were steady, my mind focused. The hunt had begun. And in the shadows of my home, upstairs, Leona slept, or pretended to. Somewhere between her calculated performance and the cold reality of evidence, a dangerous game had begun. And I, a grieving father turned investigator, was determined to see it through. The next morning I woke before dawn. The desert air was cool, sharp and clean, a deceptive contrast to the storm brewing in my mind. Today I would take the first steps beyond observation. Not just notes, not just screenshots, not just speculation. I needed concrete proof. I packed my laptop, the USB drive from Nelson, my notepad filled with observations, and a small digital camera I had used decades ago for fire inspections. It wasn't fancy, but it was precise, reliable, and it would record what my eyes could not always catch. I started with the obvious, Marcus Webb. If he was working with Leona, he had to be moving, planning, communicating. I needed to see him in his environment, trace his habits, confirm the connection. I called a private investigator. Phoenix had dozens, but I wanted someone discreet, someone I could trust. A man named Harris had a reputation for thorough work and absolute confidentiality. Within an hour, Harris arrived, quiet, efficient, a backpack filled with equipment. "We keep this low profile," he said. His voice was calm, professional. "I don't ask questions. I observe. We document. That's it." I nodded. "We need Marcus Webb and Leona Crawford, together if possible. Any financials, any communication, texts, calls, transfers. I want patterns, connections, proof of conspiracy." Harris grinned faintly. "Sounds like a fun one. Let's get to work." We started with Marcus, using Ralph's bank statements, Steve's shop surveillance, and publicly available records. Harris built a preliminary profile. Marcus lived on the east side of Phoenix, worked odd jobs, occasionally appeared at small garages doing freelance repair. But the key was the tie to Leona. The envelope Nelson gave me confirmed payments. The footage from Steve's automotive showed them together. I needed more than coincidence. I needed proof of collaboration. That afternoon, Harris and I staked out Leona's apartment. Well, my house, where she had moved in seamlessly after Ralph's death. From a safe distance, we observed patterns. Trips to the grocery store, casual phone calls, meetings that seemed casual but were too deliberate to be innocent. She was always aware of her surroundings, checking reflections, glancing at mirrors, scanning the street like a hawk. I watched her laugh with the delivery man, friendly, unassuming. But then the phone pressed to her ear, rapid typing, subtle gestures, a code, a signal. Harris handed me his tablet. Marcus Webb's phone records show consistent calls to her during the past 3 months. Odd hours, sometimes minutes before bank transfers. We're building a timeline. The thought hit me like ice water. This was not random, not just opportunistic. It was premeditated, meticulously orchestrated. We followed Leona later that week as she drove to Steve's automotive under the pretense of errands. Hidden cameras captured the familiar routine. Marcus, Webb waiting, professional, confident, casual greetings exchanged. They moved together, coordinating, planning, and this was only the beginning. That evening, I reviewed the footage and notes. I had hours of material. The picture was becoming clearer. Leona's interactions with Marcus were deliberate. The transfers in Ralph's bank account were payments for services rendered, and the car sabotage was almost certainly their work. I documented everything. Dates, bim-bum, exact phone usage, every handshake, every glance, every subtle nod. Harris and I created an encrypted folder with every piece of evidence. Nothing would leave my control. But I also knew we needed leverage. Surveillance alone wasn't enough to confront her. We needed undeniable proof of intent, something that couldn't be dismissed in court. I thought back to Ralph. He had tried to warn me. He had left instructions, highlighted bank statements, noted patterns, And now it was my responsibility to finish what he had started. Justice was not a matter of emotion. It was evidence, timelines, and proof. That night I waited, pretending to sleep while Leona moved through the house above me. I could hear her pacing, phone pressed to her ear, murmuring softly, probably discussing our finances, the house, inheritance, her next moves. I checked the accident report again. Brake line failure, catastrophic. The service records, Marcus Webb's expertise. It all fit, and it all fit together in one horrifying pattern. Ralph's death was no accident. I knew the next step had to be careful. Confrontation would alert her. I needed to trap her in her own actions, capture intent in motion. Over the next 3 days, Harris and I set up cameras at the house and surrounding areas. GPS trackers, hidden microphones, financial monitoring. Every interaction, every transaction, every step would be documented. Then, on the 4th day, it happened. Leona received a package at the house, an envelope from a courier. Marcus Webb appeared within 20 minutes, casual, professional, moving as if he belonged. He handed her a set of papers, exchanged a few whispered words. The hidden camera captured it all. Their body language was relaxed, intimate, perfectly coordinated. And then she handed him cash. Large bills, neatly stacked. The image froze in my mind. Proof of conspiracy, proof of payment, proof of intent. I sat back, heart pounding. This was it, the smoking gun. We had video of Leona and Marcus, the financial transactions, the premeditation, the coordination. The pieces were aligning, but I knew I couldn't act yet. Any wrong move and they would disappear, evidence would vanish, and justice would slip away. Patience, precision, observation. That was the key. I returned to my notepad, creating a detailed log. Leona and Marcus Webb. Meeting confirmed, cash exchange documented. Financial transfers, verified, patterns established. Surveillance. Footage secure, time-stamped, verified. Evidence chain, secure, redundant backups. Next steps. Build case, prepare for confrontation, ensure legal admissibility. I stared at the empty kitchen table, the house quiet above me. Somewhere, Leona was unaware she had been watched, recorded, tracked. Somewhere, Marcus Webb thought their plan was flawless. But they were wrong. Every step, every gesture, every lie had been cataloged. The web of deceit was unraveling, thread by thread. And I, a grieving father turned investigator, was determined to see it all come apart. The trap was set. The hunt had moved into the final phase. The morning air in Phoenix carried a deceptive stillness. The city hummed in the distance, but around my house, silence reigned. I sat in my car in the driveway, engine off, heart steady, hands gripping the steering wheel. Today would be the culmination of weeks of observation, investigation, and patient calculation. Today, the truth would be laid bare. I reviewed my notes one last time. Surveillance footage, financial records, timestamps, GPS data, all documented, encrypted, verified. Every interaction between Leona and Marcus Webb had been captured. Every payment traced. Every suspicious action recorded. I had built a mountain of evidence, unassailable, irrefutable. I didn't go inside. Not yet. First, I made a call to Detective James Torres at the Phoenix Police Department. "Detective Torres," I said, voice steady, "I have evidence, video, financial records, timestamps, and witness testimony. I need you and a team at my house immediately. It's about Ralph's death, not an accident." A long pause, then, "Mr. Crawford, if what you say is true, we'll be there. Do not confront anyone yourself. Wait for us." I ended the call, my pulse quickening. Harris had been monitoring Leona and Marcus all night. The cameras were still running, capturing their early morning routine. Today, I wouldn't have to act alone. The law would be on my side. I stepped inside, coffee in hand, my demeanor calm, deliberate. Leona was in the kitchen, humming softly, slicing fruit. She looked up, eyes warm, smile practiced. "Good morning, Dad. Sleep well?" "Yes," I said, voice steady. I have something important to discuss. Her smile faltered just slightly. Not enough to notice unless you were watching, unless you had been tracking every twitch for weeks. I'll be frank, I continued. I've learned a lot these past weeks about the car service, about the visits you made to Steve's automotive with someone. Her knife paused mid-cut, eyes flicked toward the counter, then back at me. Visits? What are you talking about? I pulled out the printed screenshots from Steve's security footage, placing them carefully on the table. Leona's eyes widened fractionally when she recognized Marcus Webb. I know who he is, and I know what you two have been doing. The transfers to his account, the insurance policy, the tampering of Ralph's car. Your plan, my voice rose slightly, controlled fury burning beneath every word. I know it all. Leona's face transformed. The warm, caring widow melted, revealing the mask underneath. Cold, calculated, desperate. You can't prove anything, she hissed, stepping closer, voice sharp. It's my word against yours. You have nothing. I stayed calm, my gaze steady. Oh, I have plenty. Video, witnesses, financial records, GPS data, surveillance logs. And Detective Torres is on his way with a team. Your accomplice, Marcus Webb, is already implicated in the tampering. You're not walking away from this. Her eyes flicked to the clock. Panic began to shadow her features. You don't understand. Ralph, it wasn't supposed to happen. He resisted. Yes, I said, voice steady, measured, deadly precise. He resisted, but your plan didn't fail. You succeeded in killing him. That makes you responsible. That makes you guilty of murder. The sound of sirens approached, faint at first, then closer. My heart pounded. Leona's breathing quickened, and she glanced toward the back door, calculating, panicked, trapped. Harris had positioned cameras in the living room, capturing every movement, every word. Leona's panic, her gestures, her attempts to fabricate explanations, all documented. When the police arrived, it was calm, precise. Detective Torres and his team entered, nodding at me. Mr. Crawford, he said, we've reviewed the evidence. We'll take it from here. Leona and Marcus Webb were taken into custody, shock and fury etched on their faces. Handcuffs clicked into place. Leona's perfect widow act dissolved into raw, unmasked fear. Marcus, for all his confidence, looked deflated, defeated. I handed over the envelope from Nelson, the USB drive, my notepad, and every piece of evidence I had meticulously collected. Detective Torres nodded in approval. This is airtight. We can prosecute for conspiracy, fraud, and first-degree murder. This is exactly what we needed. I felt an overwhelming weight lift, though grief still clung to me like a shadow. My son was gone. Nothing could bring him back. But justice, true unwavering justice, would be served. In the following days, arrests were formalized. Leona's bank accounts were frozen. Marcus Webb's assets were seized. Every financial transfer, every transaction, every movement traced and validated. The insurance company froze payouts. The house remained under my control. I sat at the kitchen table one evening, sipping tea, reviewing notes, photographs, and the initial investigation log. My hands were steady, my mind sharp. The rage had transformed into focus, determination. Then a message arrived on my phone, a short typed note from Nelson. Good work. Ralph would be proud. Justice isn't always quick, but it's coming. I stared at it, thinking of Ralph's smile, the gentle insistence with which he had always cared for me, his laughter echoing from past days. I allowed myself a quiet moment of remembrance. Weeks later in the courtroom, I sat as evidence was presented, meticulously documented. Videos, bank statements, surveillance footage, forensic reports, and expert testimonies about the brake tampering. Every piece of the puzzle fit together seamlessly. Leona and Marcus Webb's faces revealed everything. The shock, the anger, the realization that their meticulous plans had been undone by patience, observation, and relentless pursuit of truth. When the jury returned a guilty verdict, I exhaled slowly, my shoulders heavy with relief, grief, and a sense of closure. Justice for Ralph had been served, not just as punishment for the guilty, but as affirmation that deliberate evil cannot prevail when met with truth. Outside the courtroom, Nelson shook my hand. You did what Ralph would have wanted. You took the evidence. You documented. You made the case. You've done him proud. I nodded, thinking of the long journey, of nights filled with vigilance, surveillance, and careful planning. I had lost my son, but I had honored him. I had ensured that Leona and Marcus Webb would pay for the life they took. Driving home that evening, the sun dipped low behind the Arizona horizon, painting the sky in muted shades of red and gold. My house, still mine, loomed quietly in the distance. I knew the road ahead would still carry echoes of grief, but it would also carry justice. For Ralph, for truth, for a father's relentless pursuit of both. The hunt had ended. The evidence, the conspiracy, the betrayal, all accounted for. And for the first time in weeks, I felt the possibility of peace.